Remember that feeling when you saw a vehicle on TV that was so bizarre, so over the top, that you couldn't tell if it was genius or insanity? That's exactly what viewers experienced in 1987 when the Highwayman rolled onto NBC with its absolutely bonkers semi-truck. This wasn't just any truck, this was a Kenworth that looked like it had a baby with a stealth bomber, raised by Knight Rider, and given a trust fund worth $500,000. Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about this legendary TV truck that made even Kit look conservative. And trust me, some of these facts are stranger than the show itself. Before we dive into this highway to weirdness, hit that like button and subscribe if you love bizarre TV vehicles as much as we do. Number 20. The cab could supposedly fly off as a helicopter. Let's start with the most ridiculous feature that never actually worked. In the pilot episode, they told us with a straight face that the front cab of this truck could detach and fly away as a gyrocopter. Yes, seriously, the cab of a semi-truck becoming a helicopter. This wasn't just some throwaway line either. They actually showed it happening through special effects that were, well, let's just say they were ambitious for 1987. The idea was that Highway, the main character, could separate the cab in emergencies and take to the skies. Think about that for a second. You're driving an 18-wheeler down the interstate, bad guys are chasing you, and suddenly, your solution is to turn your driver's seat into a flying machine. The physics alone would make Newton cry. But here's the thing, they only did this once, in the pilot. After that, the producers apparently realized how insane this looked and quietly pretended it never happened. The feature disappeared faster than the show's ratings. For the rest of the series, that cab stayed firmly attached to the truck like nature intended. But the visual effects team had already built this elaborate helicopter nose design into the cab, so they were stuck with a truck that looked like it wanted to fly but never would again. It's like buying a convertible and then welding the roof shut. Number 19. It had an invisible stealth mode that vanished from the show. If you thought the flying cab was peak absurdity, wait until you hear about the stealth mode. In that same pilot episode, this massive semi-truck could supposedly turn invisible. Not camouflaged, not hard to see. Invisible. Like Wonder Woman's jet, but weighing 40 tons and powered by diesel. The show presented this with complete seriousness. Highway would flip a switch, and this enormous rig would shimmer and disappear from view. Because nothing says covert operations like an invisible 18-wheeler barreling down the highway, creating mysterious wind gusts and leaving tire tracks from nowhere. The special effects for this were exactly what you'd expect from 1987 television on a budget. Some sparkly overlay effects and then cutting to shots where the truck just wasn't there. Revolutionary stuff. But just like the helicopter cab, this feature mysteriously vanished after the pilot. The series producers must have had a meeting where someone finally asked how much it would cost to make the truck invisible in every episode. The answer was apparently more than NBC wants to spend. So they dropped it completely. No explanation. No, the stealth system broke. Nothing. The truck just forgot how to turn invisible, and everyone pretended it never could. This might be the only case in TV history where a vehicle's superpowers got downgrades between the pilot and series. It's like if Kite suddenly forgot how to talk after episode 1. Number 18. The dashboard was recycled from Knight Rider. Here's where things get wonderfully cheap and creative. When they were building the interior of this supposedly cutting-edge future truck, the production team needed high-tech dashboard components. Did they design new ones? Did they innovate? No. They went dumpster diving in the Knight Rider prop warehouse. That's right. Some of Kit's dashboard ended up in the Highwayman truck. Those blinking lights and random switches that made Kit look so futuristic in 1982 were apparently still futuristic enough for 1987. It's actually kind of poetic when you think about it. Kit was a talking car that fought crime. The Highwayman truck was a semi that fought crime. Both shows were produced by Glenn A. Larson. It's like a weird family reunion where the younger sibling gets the older sibling's hand-me-downs, except the hand-me-downs are crime-fighting computer interfaces. The props department basically said, why spend money on new fake computers when we have perfectly good fake computers gathering dust? This wasn't even subtle. Anyone who watched both shows could spot the similarities immediately. Those distinctive LED displays, those specific toggle switches, that particular shade of black plastic. It was Kit's DNA spliced into a bigger, dumber vehicle. Imagine being a prop master and getting the assignment to make this truck's interior look futuristic. Then being told your budget is whatever you can steal from the Knight Rider storage unit. Number 17. It cost more than most houses to build. Now, let's talk money, because the numbers involved in creating this monstrosity are absolutely insane. Different sources cite different figures, but they're all astronomical. The basic conversion from regular Kenworth to sci-fi nightmare supposedly cost $287,000. In 1987 money, that's over $700,000 in today's dollars. For reference, the median home price in America in 1987 was about $80,000. They could have bought 3.5 houses for what they spent making one truck look weird. But wait, it gets crazier. Some sources claim the total build cost was actually $500,000, $500,000. In the 80s, that's over $1.2 million today for one vehicle. That appeared in 9 episodes of a failed TV show. Let that sink in. They spent Ferrari money on a Kenworth. They spent mansion money on a prop. This wasn't even a truck that could actually do the things it claimed to do. It couldn't turn invisible. The cab couldn't fly. It was just a really expensive costume for a regular truck. John Ward Motorsports, the company that did the conversion, must have been laughing all the way to the bank. Imagine that invoice. Labor for making truck look like helicopter, $50,000. Materials for unnecessary wings, $30,000. Making NBC executives believe this is a good idea, priceless. Number 16. The nose was designed to look like a French military helicopter. The front of this truck is probably its most distinctive feature, and it's based on something oddly specific. That pointed, angular nose that makes the truck look like it's about to take off. It's styled after an aerospatial Gazelle helicopter, a French military helicopter. Because when you're designing an American TV truck for a show about highway patrol, obviously your first reference should be French military aviation. The Gazelle is actually a pretty cool helicopter, used by military forces around the world. But welding its nose onto a semi-truck is like putting a fighter jet canopy on a school bus. It doesn't make the school bus fly. It just makes it look confused. The design team really committed to this aesthetic, though. They didn't just slap a vaguely helicopter-shaped piece on the front. They studied the Gazelle's distinctive nose profile, its window configuration, even its subtle aerodynamic curves. Then they scaled it up and attached it to something that has the aerodynamics of a brick wall. What's even weirder is that they never explain why the truck looks like this in the show's universe. Did someone in this near-future world just decide that trucks needed to be more helicopter-like? Was there a sale on helicopter parts? The show treats this design choice as completely normal. Like every truck in 1992 would obviously have aviation-inspired bodywork. The irony is that the Gazelle is known for being a nimble, lightweight helicopter. This truck probably weighed 20 times what a Gazelle weighs. Number 15. John Ward Motorsports built it in Alpine, Texas. The company responsible for this magnificent monstrosity was John Ward Motorsports, based in Alpine, Texas, not Los Angeles, not Detroit. Alpine, Texas, a town of 6,000 people in the middle of nowhere, West Texas. This is where they decided to build the future of television vehicles. John Ward Motorsports wasn't some massive Hollywood prop house. They were a relatively small custom shop that somehow landed the contract to build one of the most elaborate TV vehicles ever created. Imagine being a mechanic in Alpine, Texas, and having NBC show up with a Kenworth and a briefcase full of money, asking you to make it look like it came from the future. The logistics alone are mind-boggling. Alpine is about 200 miles from El Paso, 400 miles from San Antonio, and basically in the middle of the desert. Getting specialized parts and materials to build this thing must have been a nightmare. Every custom piece, every specialized component had to be trucked in from somewhere else. But they pulled it off. This small Texas shop created something so unique, so bizarre, that people are still talking about it 35 years later. They took a standard 1980 Kenworth cab over and transformed it into something that looked like it escaped from a fever dream. The fact that this build happened in Alpine, Texas, adds another layer of weirdness to the whole story. It's like finding out the Batmobile was built in a barn in Kansas. Number 14. It had a hidden Lotus Esprit in the trailer. Because apparently a helicopter-nosed invisible semi-truck wasn't enough, the producers decided to hide a sports car inside it. Specifically, a Lotus Esprit, the same model that James Bond drove underwater in The Spy Who Loved Me, because if you're going to go over the top, why not go all the way? The Esprit was supposedly Highway's pursuit vehicle. When the truck was too big or too slow, he could deploy this sleek British sports car from the trailer's rear. It's like an automotive Russian nesting doll. a car inside a truck that thinks it's a helicopter. The logistics of this are hilarious. First, you need a trailer big enough to carry a car while still having room for all the crime-fighting equipment. Then, you need some kind of ramp system. Then, you need to explain why a government agent needs both a semi-truck and a Lotus. It's not like he could chase bad guys through narrow alleys in the Kenworth. The Lotus itself was modified to look more futuristic because a regular Esprit apparently wasn't sci-fi enough for this show. They added extra lights, some aerodynamic bits, and probably some of those leftover Knight Rider dashboard pieces. In reality, having a Lotus Esprit hidden in your truck would be about as practical as having a swimming pool in your attic. The weight distribution alone would be a nightmare. But this show wasn't about practicality. It was about having as many cool vehicles as possible. Logic be damned. Number 13, the base truck was a 1980 Kenworth cab over. Let's talk about what this thing actually was underneath all the crazy modifications. The foundation of this whole project was a 1980 Kenworth cab over truck. For those who don't speak trucker, a cab over means the cab sits directly over the engine rather than having the engine out front like a conventional truck. This design was popular in the 70s and 80s because it maximized cargo space while keeping the overall length down. Choosing a cab over as the base was actually pretty smart from a design perspective. The flat face and high seating position already looked kind of futuristic compared to conventional trucks. It gave them a good starting point for their helicopter nose modification, plus the cab over design meant the engine was easily accessible from inside, which worked well for all the fake high-tech equipment they needed to install. This particular Kenworth was 7 years old when they started the conversion. Not exactly cutting-edge technology, even by 1987 standards. But that didn't matter. They were going to cover it in so much custom bodywork that nobody would recognize the original truck anyway. The funny thing is that Kenworth cab-overs were workhorses. These were trucks designed to haul freight across America, not fight crime or turn invisible. It's like taking a reliable family sedan and turning it into a spaceship. Sure, you can do it, but the sedan is probably confused about its life choices. Number 12. It packed a Detroit Diesel 8 V92. T-engine under all that custom bodywork beat the heart of a true working truck. The Detroit Diesel 8 V92 T-engine. This wasn't some exotic power plant. This was the diesel equivalent of a sledgehammer, reliable, powerful, and about as subtle as the truck's appearance. The 8592T was a two-stroke diesel V8 that was ubiquitous in trucks of that era. Detroit Diesel made thousands of these things. They powered everything from city buses to fishing boats to, apparently, crime-fighting future trucks. The 92 refers to 92 cubic inches per cylinder, making this a 736 cubic inch monster. The two-stroke design meant it fired on every revolution, creating that distinctive Detroit diesel scream that truckers either loved or hated. There was no in-between. What's hilarious is that this very conventional engine was supposed to power all the truck's futuristic capabilities. The same engine hauling potatoes across Idaho was somehow enabling stealth mode and helicopter transformation, at least in the pilot episode's imagination. Some sources claim this engine was modified to produce 700 horsepower, which would be impressive if true. Stock, these engines made around 300 to 400 horsepower. But even 700 horsepower wouldn't be enough to make this aerodynamic disaster fast. You can put a rocket engine in a barn, but it's still shaped like a barn. Number 11. The build included an automatic transmission. Here's a detail that might not seem weird until you think about it. This truck had an automatic transmission. In 1987, most semi-trucks had manual transmissions with anywhere from 9 to 18 gears. But the Highwayman truck, automatic, like a minivan. This was actually a big deal for a TV vehicle. Can you imagine trying to film action scenes with an actor wrestling with a manual transmission? Okay, in this scene, you're chasing the bad guys while shifting through 13 gears and delivering important dialogue. The automatic transmission was probably a necessity for filming. The automatic made everything simpler for the actors and allowed for smoother action sequences. No grinding gears, no missed shifts, no stalling during crucial scenes. Just put it in drive and pretend you're piloting a spacecraft. It also fit the show's futuristic theme. In the late 80s, automatic transmissions in big trucks were seen as the future. They were wrong, manual transmissions dominated for decades more, but the thought was there. The automatic transmission probably made the truck even more of an oddball in the trucking world. Imagine pulling into a truck stop with your helicopter nose future truck with an automatic transmission. The other truckers wouldn't know whether to laugh or call the authorities. This mechanical choice perfectly encapsulates the show's approach. Take something practical, make it weird, call it futuristic. Number 10. Some sources claim 700 horsepower output. The power claims for this truck vary wildly depending on who you ask. Some sources insist the Detroit diesel was modified to produce 700 horsepower. That's a serious number, especially for 1987. If true, this would make the Highwayman truck one of the most powerful semi-trucks on television. But let's think about this claim for a second. 700 horsepower from a Detroit 8.5 92T would require serious modifications. We're talking about different turbochargers, modified injection systems, strengthened internals. That's not cheap or easy. And for what? It's not like they were actually racing this thing. The more likely scenario is that someone in marketing heard the engine could theoretically make 700 horsepower and ran with it. Our truck has 700 horsepower sounds way cooler than our truck has the same engine as a city bus. Even with 700 horsepower, this truck would still be slower than molasses going uphill. All that custom bodywork, the steel construction, the helicopter nose that destroyed any aerodynamics, it all added weight and drag. You could have 1,000 horsepower and this thing would still struggle to outrun a Volkswagen on the highway. But the 700 horsepower claim persists in truck mythology. It's part of the legend now. Whether it's true or not almost doesn't matter. In the world of TV vehicles, perception is reality, and this truck was perceived as powerful. Number 9. The body was built entirely from steel, not fiberglass. When you look at this truck's wild custom bodywork, you might assume it was made from fiberglass or some other lightweight material. That would be the smart choice for a TV prop. Fiberglass is easier to work with, cheaper to modify, and much lighter. But no, they built this thing from steel. Heavy, expensive, difficult to work with steel. According to auction listings and sales information, the entire custom body is steel construction. Every weird angle, every bizarre curve, every unnecessary aerodynamic element, all steel. This is like building a costume out of armor when everyone else is using cardboard. The amount of metalworking required for this project must have been staggering. You can't just bend steel into helicopter shapes easily. Every piece had to be cut, formed, welded, ground, and finished. The fabricators at John Ward Motorsports earned every penny of that $500,000 budget. The steel construction also meant this truck was incredibly heavy. A standard Kenworth cab over was already heavy. Add hundreds of pounds of custom steel bodywork and you've got something that probably needed its own zip code. But the steel construction gave the truck a presence that fiberglass never could. This wasn't some flimsy prop that would fall apart after a few takes. This was a rolling fortress that could probably survive an actual apocalypse. 35 years later, the truck still exists because of that steel construction. Number 8. It drew heavy design inspiration from the Steinwinter Supercargo. The Highwayman truck's bizarre, low-profile design wasn't completely original. It drew heavy inspiration from one of the weirdest concept trucks ever built, the Steinwinter Supercargo. If you've never heard of it, Google it right now. Your brain will thank you for the confusion. The Steinwinter Supercargo was a German concept truck from the early 80s that looked like someone squashed a regular truck with a giant hydraulic press. The cab was so low the driver practically lay down while driving. It looked like a truck designed by someone who had only heard descriptions of trucks but had never actually seen one. The Highwayman's designers apparently saw the Steinwinter and thought, yes, this is what American television needs. They took the super low cab concept, added their helicopter nose, threw in some crime-fighting equipment, and called it the future. The cab under design, where the cab sits lower than usual, is straight from the Steinwinter playbook. Both trucks challenged conventional truck design in ways that made traditional truckers question reality. The difference is the Steinwinter was a serious attempt to revolutionize trucking efficiency. The Highwayman truck was a serious attempt to make people watch NBC on Friday nights. One was arguably more successful than the other, though neither really achieved their goals. It's fitting that a TV truck based on fighting crime in the future took inspiration from a concept truck that looked like it came from an alternate dimension where physics works differently. Number 7. It featured a battering ram. Front bumper. Because subtle wasn't in this show's vocabulary, they gave the truck a front bumper that could supposedly work as a battering ram, not a push bar. Not a bull bar. A battering ram. Like medieval castle storming equipment, but attached to a semi-truck. This wasn't just a visual element either. In the show, Highway would use this reinforced front bumper to smash through obstacles, ram bad guy vehicles, and generally solve problems through application of massive force. It was conflict resolution through tonnage. The bumper itself was this massive chunk of steel that looked like it could punch through a bank vault. It protruded from the helicopter nose like the universe's most aggressive unicorn horn. The whole assembly probably added another few hundred pounds to the front end. From an engineering perspective, this is hilarious. The truck already had the aerodynamics of a parachute, and they decided to add a giant flat surface to the front. At highway speeds, the wind resistance must have been incredible. The fuel economy was probably measured in gallons per mile, not miles per gallon. But it looked intimidating, which was the point. When this thing appeared in your rearview mirror with that battering ram pointed at your bumper, you moved over. Or you laughed at the absurdity. Either way, you noticed it, which was what mattered for television. Number 6. The side Strakes were inspired by Ferrari Testarossa. In perhaps the most unlikely design mashup in automotive history, someone decided this truck needed styling elements from a Ferrari Testarossa. Yes, the Italian supercar famous for its distinctive side Strakes, those horizontal slats that became the symbol of 1980s excess. They looked at a semi-truck and thought, you know what this needs? Ferrari styling. The Strakes, those parallel horizontal lines running along the sides, were supposedly functional on the Testarossa, helping cool the side-mounted radiators. On the Highwayman truck, they were about as functional as the helicopter nose, but they sure looked, well, they looked like something. This is like putting a tuxedo on a bulldozer. Sure, you can do it, but the bulldozer isn't going to the opera, and everyone knows it. The Ferrari Testarossa was the epitome of 80s sports car design. The Highwayman truck was the epitome of 80s TV vehicle excess. Combining them created something that belonged in neither category. The fabricators had to create these Strakes in steel, matching them to the truck's already bizarre proportions. It's one thing to put Strakes on a low-slung Italian sports car. It's another thing entirely to scale them up for a vehicle that's 10 feet tall. The result was a truck that looked like it was trying way too hard to be cool, which, let's be honest, perfectly summarized the entire show. Number 5, after Cancellation, they started converting it to an RV. The show lasted exactly 9 episodes before NBC pulled the plug, but the truck's story didn't end there. John Ward Motorsports, the company that built this monster, apparently decided to convert it into a recreational vehicle. Because if you're going to travel America, why not do it in a truck that looks like it escaped from a sci-fi asylum? According to reports, they started installing RV amenities inside the trailer. We're talking about a washer and dryer, a fireplace. Yes, a fireplace. In a truck that used to fight crime on television. They were literally turning a prop vehicle into someone's potential home on wheels. Think about the conversation that led to this decision. Hey, we've got this $500,000 TV truck that nobody wants anymore. What should we do with it? I don't know, maybe someone wants to go camping in a vehicle that looks like a helicopter, had a baby with a semi-truck? The RV conversion makes a weird kind of sense though. The trailer was already huge and mostly empty since it didn't actually need to carry crime-fighting equipment. The cab was already set up for long-distance driving, and if you're the type of person who would buy this truck, you're probably the type who doesn't mind pulling into KOA campgrounds looking like you're about to invade a small country. Whether they ever finish the RV conversion is unclear, but the idea itself is perfect. Nothing says relaxing vacation like driving a vehicle that costs more than most houses and gets 4 miles per gallon. Number 4, a mobile tattoo shop bought and preserved it. In one of the stranger twists in this truck's journey, it was eventually purchased by a business called Highwayman USA Inc., a mobile tattoo service. They bought a TV prop truck to give people tattoos. Let that sink in for a moment. This company apparently saw the Highwayman truck and thought, perfect for our mobile tattoo parlor. Because nothing says sterile medical procedure like getting inked in a truck that looks like it's about to transform into a robot. The mobile tattoo shop actually makes a bizarre kind of sense. The trailer was huge, providing plenty of space for tattoo stations. The truck's distinctive appearance would certainly attract attention at bike rallies and events. And the name Synergy was perfect. Highwayman truck, Highwayman tattoo shop. It writes itself. What's remarkable is that this tattoo shop ownership probably saved the truck from being scrapped. They preserved it, maintained it, and kept it running when it could have easily ended up in a junkyard. This $500,000 piece of television history survived because someone wanted a really conspicuous mobile tattoo parlor. Imagine being at Sturgis or Daytona Bike Week and seeing this thing roll up. You'd either run away in fear or immediately get in line for a tattoo. There's no middle ground with a vehicle this absurd. The tattoo shop phase of the truck's life is probably the most practical use it ever had. Number 3, the entire build happened for just 9 episodes. Here's the fact that should make every TV executive cry. They spent up to $500,000 building this truck for a show that lasted exactly 9 episodes. 9, not 9. Seasons, not 90 episodes, 9 episodes total. That breaks down to over $55,000 per episode just for the truck. To put this in perspective, entire TV shows have been produced for less than what they spent on this one vehicle. The show premiered in March 1988 and was canceled by May 1988. They barely made it through spring. The truck had a longer build time than the show had airtime. John Ward Motorsports probably spent months creating this thing. The show lasted weeks. By the time they finished all the custom work, learned how to film with it, and got it camera ready, the show was already on life support. NBC executives must have had some interesting meetings when those ratings came in. So, about that $500,000 truck we commissioned, the one for the hit show that's going to run for years, about that. This might be the worst return on investment in television vehicle history. At least the Batmobile got used in a movie and a full TV series. Even Kit lasted for 4 seasons. The Highwayman truck got 9 episodes and then became a very expensive conversation piece. Number 2. Multiple failed attempts to sell it as movie memorabilia. After the show's cancellation, the truck entered the strange purgatory of TV vehicle afterlife. It's been offered for sale multiple times over the decades, marketed as movie memorabilia, a production prop, or a collector's item. The problem is, it's memorabilia from a show nobody remembers. The various sale attempts tell a story of gradually lowering expectations. Early listings probably emphasize the truck's TV heritage and unique design. Later ones focus more on the craftsmanship and build cost. Eventually, they were probably just hoping someone with too much money and questionable taste would take it off their hands. The truck has appeared at auction houses, on specialized vehicle sales sites, and in classified ads. Each time, the sellers have to explain what the Highwayman was, why this truck mattered, and why someone should pay serious money for a prop from a failed show. It's like trying to sell memorabilia from a band that had one song that peaked at number 97 on the charts. Sure, it's unique, but unique doesn't always mean valuable. The asking prices have varied wildly over the years, probably depending on how desperate the current owner was to get rid of it. The truck is simultaneously priceless as a piece of TV history and worthless as a practical vehicle. It exists in this weird zone where it's too famous to scrap, but too obscure to sell for what it costs to build. Number 1, it was designed for a future that never happened. The weirdest fact about the Highwayman truck is that it was designed to represent the near future of 1992. The show's creators genuinely thought this is what vehicles would look like in 5 years. Helicopter noses, stealth technology, and Ferrari Strakes on semi-trucks. This was their vision of tomorrow. The show premiered in 1988, set in 1992, and portrayed a world where the highways were so dangerous that we needed militarized super trucks to patrol them. The actual 1992 gave us the Ford Explorer and Dodge Viper. Not exactly the same vision. This truck represents a fascinating moment in 1980s futurism. It's what happens when TV producers, automotive designers, and probably significant amounts of cocaine try to predict the future. They looked at Knight Rider's success and thought, but what if the car was huge and could fly? The irony is that the actual future of trucking went in the completely opposite direction. Instead of helicopter noses and battering rams, we got better fuel efficiency and safety features. Instead of stealth modes, we got GPS tracking. Instead of hidden sports cars, we got better sleeping compartments for drivers. The Highwayman truck is a monument to failed futurism. It's a $500,000 reminder that predicting the future is hard, and building TV vehicles based on those predictions is expensive. But it's also kind of beautiful in its absurdity. Someone had a completely insane vision and actually built it, in steel, for 9 episodes of television that barely anyone watched. And there you have it, 20 absolutely bizarre facts about a truck that shouldn't exist but somehow does. The Highwayman truck remains one of television's most expensive, most ridiculous, and most forgotten vehicles. It's a perfect time capsule of 1980s excess, terrible predictions about the future, and what happens when TV executives have more money than sense. Did you know about this show before today? Had you ever seen this magnificent monstrosity rolling down the highway of failed TV history? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into television's weird vehicle vault, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got plenty more forgotten TV oddities where this came from. Thanks for riding along on this strange journey down memory lane. And we'll see you next time when we explore another piece of television history that probably shouldn't exist, but thankfully does.